What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Starkmack, MovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is How to Train Your Dragon. But which one? Click like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you'll find out. I promise it will tell you. Otherwise, what I'm about to say, it'll get messed up and you won't be able to hear it. But this is the 2025 version. See, I do TV reviews and movie reviews and all sorts of nonsensical movie crap here, and because I'm blind, I'm always going into things blind, regardless of not. People use that a lot, uh, and that's actually what I do. And I watch things with audio description, and I talk about it, so you never know when you might need this channel or a different perspective or know somebody. So share it. Audio description here was done by Media Access Group, which is nice. They don't always get to do things that go to theaters, so I'm glad they got to do this. I also haven't seen them do a ton with Universal DreamWorks before, so I feel like this is them branching out. They do pretty much a lot of like Paramount and CBS stuff. They've done a little bit with Amazon. That's sort of like their sweet spot. I would not have expected to see them on this. But yeah, this is directed by Dean Dubois. I think that's the cool way to pronounce his name, so I'm going to go with that. It stars Mason Thames, Nico Parker, Gerard Butler, Nick Frost, and some other kids whose names I've already forgotten. But some of them are old. One of them is like 31, and Mason is like 17, and they're all playing like the same age range. It's really funny. But there's the kid that was from Deadpool 2 and Hunt for Wilder People. He's here. And yeah, just a couple other people that I sort of recognize their credits. And I was like, oh yeah, I know you. But I don't remember their names. I didn't memorize them. I'm sorry. Like, those are the top four: Mason, Nico, Gerard, and Nick. Of course, Gerard is reprising the role that he voiced. He's actually getting to bring it to life here as Stoic. So I'm a big fan of the animated feature, which I'm also dropping a review of. And I actually consider that movie to be like a desert island movie, which is my sort of like comfort films list. It's like films I would take to a desert island. My desert island apparently has a TV on it with my movies already preloaded, and I could just sit there and watch that and do my Tom Hanks Castaway thing by myself, just watching movies. But like, those are the movies that, like, if I had to keep them, if I could only watch like a certain subset of movies, which movies would I watch? And I've seen How to Train Your Dragon a bunch of times. The first one, even more so, because every time there's like a sequel, I have to go back and rewatch the other ones. It's exactly what I'm doing with this trilogy. So now I've seen the entire trilogy again, which just enhances how many more times I've seen every single one of these films. But I'm a big fan, and this is the first time that DreamWorks has dipped their toes, so to speak, into the live action remake territory. Some people have said, like, don't do it, we don't need this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I wouldn't mind if they actually did Shrek the Musical. There is a live action recording of it that floats around. Actually, I own it on DVD, but I wouldn't mind if they figured out a way how to do that, but they have to make it look not terrible. I think like Shrek is going to be a hard thing to pull off. That's where you have to get somebody who resist the urge to do like VFX and try to do actual prosthetics. So yeah, I mean, they could do more of this. There's some of their films that I think Madagascar would be stupid. Please don't do that. There's some of these films that would be fun to do. Not all of them. You have to know what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing it. And that's the same thing about Disney movies, is that why are you adapting the property? Like, why are you remaking it? Are you just cannibalizing your own franchise, or do you actually have a reason to do this? And Dean Dubois apparently always wanted to turn How to Train Your Dragon into a live action film to begin with, but he settled for animation, which he was known for because he did Lilo and Stitch, which is also remade this year. I didn't get out to see that one in theaters. Fun fact, I actually double featured this with Materialist in the same day. It was just easier to stay there all day and watch two films than to drive back and forth. And So uh, I this is, I mean, they built a whole world for this at Epic Universe, the new Universal Studios park in Orlando, Florida. I think they're committed to this. I think based on the 80 something $1 million weekend that this thing had, I kind of saw this at the trail end of the weekend. I was not invited to an advanced screening of How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah. So I get invited to a lot and I don't always go because I don't have a car to drive. So I end up just I go when I have people to go with. Otherwise it's just really expensive. Even a free ticket becomes like, if I'm Ubering myself back and forth, that's a lot, dude, to do all these movies for you guys for a channel that's not monetized. I love you, but no. So it's just happened. How to Train Your Dragon just materialized in my life on Materialist Day. And do we need this? I liked this, but at the same time, it is basically the same film. Like, he extended it a little bit, he took some liberties, but as a blind person, I don't even benefit from the coolness of seeing something turned live action. So it's basically the same story. And while I liked it, and it expands a little bit upon and like lengthens the story, like this is maybe about 30 minutes longer than the other. I don't even think it's 30. But it is longer. Like, they did a little bit more. Nico Parker has a little bit more screen time than America Ferrera did, voicing her character, whose name I've already forgotten. It'll come back to me probably halfway through this review. But it's basically the same thing. And I know the cool thing is, the seeing the dragons and seeing the live action flight. And remember, it's still animated. We don't actually have dragons. No, we do, actually, but don't tell anybody. That's why we want Greenland so bad, is because we know that's where the dragons are. Shh, don't tell anybody. That's our master plan. The dragons are in Greenland. They've been protecting them all these years. We must train them. That's what the movies say. We have to do. Anyway, back in reality. So yeah, Mason plays Hiccup. I love Mason. Like, I loved him in Black Phone. He was surprisingly, I admit this because I don't really care. I don't beat to the drum of like everybody else and follow trades and whatever else and people are thinking. I had Mason Thames in my top 10 best actors of 2022 for The Black Phone. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he made that movie, and oftentimes we write off child actors as being like, oh, they're not as good as the adults. And it's like, yeah, but in certain movies, you need a child actor to be great. And if that child actor is not great, the movie doesn't work. Jacob Tremblay in Room deserved an Oscar nomination, hands down. That's an example. It didn't matter what Brie Larson did in that movie. If Jacob Tremblay had been obnoxious, that movie wouldn't have worked. Nobody would have seen it, and Brie Larson never would have gotten her Oscar. Pick a bad child actor for that movie, the movie's dead. Dead in no water. So she owes everything to Jacob Tremblay. Well, most of it, anyway. I mean, they share it, but the fact that he didn't get a nomination is just absurd. Yeah, I mean, like, we do have really strong child performances every once in a while, and they deserve recognition and note. Another one, Woody Norman in Come On, Come On was really good. So, I mean, we've had them. Mason is definitely one of the, I think, brightest talents we have right now. So for him to be able to take this franchise that I think is probably going to get sequels, again, because Universal's really committed to this right now. There's a huge section of Epic Universe dedicated to just How to Train Your Dragon. And it's not like they can undo it. If this movie had bombed at the box office, oh my God, what a man, that would have been horrible for them. Imagine if Disney, before Snow White came out, had built like a Snow White section. So yeah, I think that Universal is going to stick with this, and that's going to help boost his career. He also is like sort of age appropriate. Like, that's the great thing, is some of the other actors and actresses are a little bit older. Nico Parker is a little bit older. She's like 21, I think. I also did not know until the publicity for this movie that she's Tandaway Newton's daughter. That surprised me. I was a little bit I didn't know that she was the second generation. So kind of impressed by that. I remember her from Dumbo. I didn't realize she was in The Last of Us until I looked at her credits. I didn't like remember her from that, and I don't remember Sarah. Like off the top of my head, I don't remember Sarah. Like I'm sure if I like looked up the episode and I was like, oh yeah, it was that girl from that episode. But I also remember her from Suncoast. So like she has like two roles that I remember, and I think she's fine. Like she's fine here. These people, they all find their own ways into their roles that are not, Mason is not Jay Baruchel, Nico is not America Ferrera, and the other kids definitely are not their characters either. I mean, it's hard to be Jonah Hill, but I think they try. I think the kid that is cast opposite Jonah Hill like understands what that character is and what Jonah brought to it. And sort of the same thing for the characters played by TJ Miller and Kristen Wiig. I think you sort of get the same sort of vibe from is it Rough and Tough? Is it that easy? Yeah, Rough Nut and Tough Nut, yeah. Uh, those characters all sort of have the same vibe. It moves about the same pace. I like the score, but then again, I like the score to the original movie, and that's a lot of that is here. So it blends like Wicked for me. Like I really hated the fact that Wicked got an original score nomination this year because it's not really an original score. The rules of that category, like do away with them or don't. Like allow people to decide whether or not they think the score is original based on that, but don't add this weird sort of like nebulous thing where there's some like man in a dark room somewhere that decides whether or not, because like Dune 2 was disqualified for not being original enough, but somehow like Wicked was considered original, whereas the rules in the category just state that the score must have enough original music in it so that it cannot be confused with the previous material. So like the audience has to be able to clearly define the original score. And I think that's really nebulous. I think when you get into these films like How to Train Your Dragon and Wicked that are direct remakes of things that had scores, that it becomes really hard to do that, and they're not trying to really deviate too much from the original sound of the movie. They want that iconic How to Train Your Dragon score there because it was a great score. Just like Wicked is not going to suddenly change that score either. So yeah, the music's great, the action's great, the cast is great, everything is great here. So what's my problem with it? My problem is that at the end of the day, I'm still going to choose the original. There's nothing wrong with this movie. Like, I enjoyed this movie from top to bottom, but I can't give it an A. I can't think of a reason why I didn't like this movie, but I can tell you that moving forward, I'm going to continue to watch the animated movie. I don't know how many more times I'm going to watch this, and there's nothing wrong with it. But because it's so close to the original, it's stuck so close to the source material, it will please fans. Like there will be fans who are like, don't change anything. And I love that about that. And to some extent, I am that too. Like you either have to have a completely brilliant original vision for something that works. You have to take a franchise and run with it and give us something that's really cool and unique in your own vision. And Dean DeBlois is not going to do that for his own source material. Or you have to give me a completely faithful adaptation that knows what not to fuck with and knows what made the first film work and highlights that. And this film knows that because Dean made it. So this is like a best case scenario. I don't think we've had this opportunity before where somebody has, I mean, we have, and it sucked. John Woo's The Killer, where he remade it with Natalie Emmanuel, sucks. It's a shitty remake of his own movie. So but here, we had an animated film turned into a live action film, and I mean, Dean did it right. He did exactly, he walked in, Universal was going to make this with or without him. This is one of those cases, sort of like why one Wachowski directed the fourth Matrix movie, because they knew that Warner Brothers was going to do it with or without them. Dean was like, well, if you're going to do it, let me do it. And this is why, is because he knew that at bare minimum, it was going to come out good. Like he was never going to let this movie be bad. And anybody who says this movie is bad is just stupid. Like inherently, Like, you can not like the things about it. You can not like the remake. You can call this a cash grab, all the things, but he 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 did this film solid. Um, you could not like the fact that it stayed too close to the source material. That's a valid point. But to say this is a bad movie is to say that the original was a bad movie. So it's not. It's just the other movie's just not a bad movie. Um, yeah, I mean, you could not. Maybe it's not your favorite. Maybe you're like, well, I like the other DreamWorks movies more. But I just don't like to ever anyone who ever says it's a bad movie. It already has like above an 8 point something on IMDb. So like this has fans. And rightly so, because it just reminds you of the thing that came before it in the way that Disney really hasn't been able to do. I've heard Lilo and Stitch does a little bit of that, and that's why it's done so well at the box office. But a lot of their films, uh, my favorites are the ones where you're actually giving me an opportunity, like a new voice on something. So I actually have a choice to watch animated Jungle Book or Jon Favreau's Jungle Book because they feel like they're different movies. Or animated Alice in Wonderland or Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. I mean, one can still be the better film or one can still be superior, but it also answers the question of why, why I might choose the live action version because you still made something that was good and entertaining and feels like it has its own flavor and didn't try to just shot for shot. This is basically like this is close to shot for shot. I mean, he expands a little bit on it, but he also really doesn't want to veer too much from what worked. He knows the formula because he nailed it the first time and he's gonna nail it the second time. Yeah, I got no complaints here. And seeing Gerard Butler being able to bring this character to life, I mean, we're basically going to see Dwayne Johnson do the same thing with Moana. I think there's another film where somebody else is getting to do the character that they voiced too, but I can't remember what it is. There's something else that I just saw like announced. Anyway, there are these opportunities for people to be able to do the thing, and it works. Could some other characters come along? Not really, because everybody kind of aged out of it. Craig Ferguson, I don't know. I mean, I guess he could have been fine here. He's getting a little bit up in age, though. I think Nick Frost brings a certain spryness to the role. I think he does it well. The role that Craig Ferguson voices in I forget these names, but despite how many times I've seen these movies, the problem is I watch too much stuff and it's hard for me to get from point A to point B sometimes. I like the audio description. Media Access Group does really nice stuff, and I thought they really described the flying sequences really well, the dragons. I don't know necessarily the difference of it, but I mean, if I took my kid to see this before the animated film, I don't know why I would do that, but if I did, I feel like they would know what a Night Fury looks like. So, uh, watch this. Sure, by all means, please watch this. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to ask yourself, which one do you actually prefer? And do you actually prefer this one? And I think the people who are going to prefer this one are going to be the younger kids who didn't grow up with How to Train Your Dragon, who don't have the nostalgia. Or it's going to be the younger kids who do see this first, who do see this How to Train Your Dragon, or who only have seen the other one once. And it's not really, it wasn't really their thing. They've been watching other things. Maybe they just saw it and like, I don't know. They're not like completely into the franchise. But for kids who are into the franchise, I can't imagine that they're going to choose this as being their new go-to. I'm sure it looks cool. But from a blind perspective, it's basically telling me the same story twice. And I think going forward, when we keep doing these live action remakes, we have to kind of we should start treating these source materials like we treat Robin Hood and King Arthur and some of those things, which, yes, admittedly, some of those don't work because they kind of just push them out, like they're cash grabs, and Peter Pan and some of those things, because they're in the public domain and anybody can make a film sort of based in that world or realm. And so we get sort of like wildly different versions of these stories, but some of them are really good. And then that way there's sort of like a tier list and a ranking and different Robin Hood movies, and people can have different favorites. They can have you might have a different favorite King Arthur movie than me, or a different favorite Robin Hood movie than me. And that's fine. And there may not be one easy answer to that question. But with these franchises, I feel like we're just kind of doing the same thing. And that's what they're doing, is that they're just essentially creating a live action version of the thing they already have, which is not really necessary. But I think in the end, if you can't find an auteur with a clear version to take it in a different direction, then the best thing you can do is let the original person do it and get something like Dean DeBois and let him, complete his life cycle, I guess, by being able to do the live action version of this. Like, there's a new Jurassic movie that came out this year, and I'd be far more excited about it if Steven Spielberg was returning to the franchise. Be honest, you would be too. So sometimes there's something to be said about being the creator or the person who first brought something to the screen. Not everything is John Woo's The Killer with Natalie Emanuel. Sometimes the original person who got it right the first time is the person who might actually funnel that out if that's what you're trying to do. Anyway, I can't give this an A, even though I can't really find any fault with it, because at the end of the day, its fault is that it's not the original. Its fault is that at the end of the day, I'm still going to keep watching the animated film over this. I might watch this again, like twice, but I've already seen the animated film probably 6-7 times. And I'm just going to keep watching that because that's where my heart is. Even though I love Mason Thames, even though it's super fun seeing Gerard Butler do this, even though the audio description is great, it checks all the boxes. I enjoyed this. I'm going to give How to Train Your Dragon an A-. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.